Welcome to Municipal Affairs. I'm Christopher Brown. Change is a constant in municipal governance, and with it comes the opportunity to reflect, adapt, and grow. Today, we're marking the end of an era and the start of a new chapter for Alberta municipalities. After 2 decades of dedicated service, Alberta Municipalities Chief Executive Officer Dan Rood is preparing to step down at the end of this year. His leadership has been a cornerstone of Alberta Municipalities' evolution from his start as Chief Financial Officer in 2004 to his tenure as CEO beginning in 2018. Now, in today's episode, we sit down with Dan to look back on the milestones, the challenges, and the transformations that have shaped Alberta municipalities under his guidance. We'll explore the strategic shifts he championed, the policies that have had lasting impacts, and the lessons he's learned through it all. We'll also turn our focus to the future, the challenges waiting Alberta municipalities in 2025 and beyond, the changing dynamics of municipal governance, and how Alberta communities, big and small, can thrive in an increasingly complex landscape. What were the key moments that defined Dan's leadership? How has Alberta municipalities evolved to better serve its communities? And what wisdom will he pass on to the next generation of leaders as he prepares to hand over the reins? All this and more coming up on Municipal Affairs. From the smallest village to the largest city, across every region of the province, Alberta Municipalities represents the communities where over 85% of Albertans live. AB Munis provides a united voice for 265 of Alberta's 330 municipalities, including summer villages, towns, cities, and specialized municipalities. As Alberta's largest municipal group, AB Munis listens to municipal leaders and advocates for solutions to their common issues. Additionally, AB Munis supports local governments by providing services specially designed to meet their operational needs. And they bring their members together regularly so they can share ideas and information so that their communities can thrive. Check out Alberta Municipalities at abmunis.ca and follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now called X. Dan, I want to thank you so much for sitting down at the end of a historic career working alongside Alberta municipalities. I've got to start a sort of a simple question off the bat, but what made the decision now? Why now? Why depart at the end of 2024 as the Chief Executive Officer for Alberta municipalities?
There's a couple reasons. I mean, it's not something that you make a decision just on the spur of the moment. I mean, it's one of those things that you think about for a while. I think the main reason, Chris, is I'm turning 65 next year. So I'm middle of the year. I'm 64 now. I'll be 65 in the middle of next year, and you just kind of it's time a little bit time for Dan, a little bit of time that I have some flexibility and so on. Create that for me. I've had a career, coming up on 45 years, and I think it's just time. I also think the organization's ready for me to leave, Chris. It's ready in the sense we've got really strong people here that it's not going to miss a beat with me, moving on type of thing or going to the next phase of my life. So that was another thing. We're ready as an organization for me to leave. It's sometimes you just think about it's time for a new voice type of thing. And I kind of think about reflect on that, and it's time, I think. And so, yeah, those are the kind of the drivers that you kind of think about for a long time before you make that decision. Yeah.
So reflecting on your career with Alberta municipalities, I want to start with the role that you're currently occupying, and that is the CEO role. Reflecting on your tenure as CEO of Alberta municipalities, what were some of the most significant milestones and achievements that the organization was able to accomplish in your time?
You know what, Chris, I'm going to go back even. So I've been here for 20 years, and for the first 13 years, I was the finance, the CFO, and so on. So I'm just going to go back over that time because I think there was some major milestones that has made this organization what it is. And I think that the first one when I joined, and I wasn't the driver of it, but I was pretty heavily participated in it, in 2004, and that's when I started with the organization. Um, we decided to bring our business services internally. Before that, they were all done by external parties, third parties type of thing. We decided that we were going to bring them internally. And when we did that, did a whole bunch of things for our organization. Before that, our membership engagement was left to a third party with our business services. They did all the billings, they did all the setting the pricing, and we decided to bring it internally. We brought our systems internally. We brought the staff internally. It allowed us to create the culture that we have right now with the staff. So that was the kind of the big change in this organization was 2024, where we went from like 9 people in this office to where we're at now, over 100 people, and that was that trigger that made that change all kind of happen. So that was 2004. The other milestone that this took me a while, this takes me back a while, is I think municipal infrastructure in Alberta, funding for municipalities. So in 2007, with Premier Stelmach, he introduced MSI, and that was the first program for municipal for infrastructure funding from the province to municipalities. In 2012, it changed to LGFF, Local Government Fiscal Framework. That was another change. So that was and Chris, that was years in the making to get that to happen, that a program for infrastructure for municipalities, local governments. The only disappointment, I guess, with LGFF is the amount. We still keep hammering away at that. The province could have made this everybody's so happy. Asking for years for a program for infrastructure funding. That came to fruition finally after all those years, and then they reduced the amount that it didn't make people happy. So it's too bad. It could have been, it's still a great program, still years in the making, but as you've heard many times from our members, it's not sufficient to meet the growing needs of the province and some of the the upgrading and maintenance of infrastructure in our members. So that was another big milestone, is that program. Second one is third one that I might mention is moving to this building. So we're on 51st Avenue and 86th Street in Edmonton, 60,000 square foot building. It's a little bit more than we need, but that was a huge move for us, and to move into this building. So that was something that, again, was years in the making, as we just kept growing as an organization. We added the building, and we're, with our branding and so on. I think the last one I want to mention, Chris, and you were probably paying attention to us or with us then, is our name change and our branding change. So we did that, I think it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. That took a lot of courage to do that. When you're making a change in the name of your organization and changing your branding that's been there for years and years and decades, that took a lot of courage, and not for me, but just from our board and the staff here and that type of thing. So yeah, those are the things that I kind of remember as major milestones in this organization. Yeah.
I'm gonna just follow up on the sort of the crux of what you were just talking about there, but how have you changed in your 20 years in this role? Because I can imagine you're not the same person you were when you walked through those doors in 2004 that you are leaving these doors at the end of this month.
How have I changed? I was just talking to one of my I think I'm more patient than I probably have changed that way. I'm a competitive person, so I think there's some of the competitiveness is kind of dulled out over the years type of thing, but still very competitive. So I think I just recognize a lot of things as you gain, grow in age and so on and so on. So yeah, change. I think those are the main things, and I'm just kind of maybe a little bit more patient and with things, and yeah, that's
Well,
probably.
patience is always a good thing, especially when you're dealing with municipalities, because that's the first thing that municipal leaders need to learn in the position.
Yeah, things take a long time, yeah, or
Uh,
can.
we talk about the accomplishments over the last 20 years, but we often, and I hate to talk about the challenges, but there has been some big challenges within the municipal sector and within Alberta municipalities over the last 20 years as well. We've seen climate change. We've seen infrastructure challenges, like you just talked about, of the LGFF, the reduced funding. What, for you, from your perspective, what have been some of the biggest challenges you have faced leading the organization, whether it be through that CFO role or CEO role in recent years?
One that I think people are like to forget, like to forget is COVID and the pandemic. That was a huge challenge. It was something that nobody had ever experienced unless you were, existed during the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s. But the COVID was a challenge. I think municipalities that they rose up, met the challenge all the way through. Our organization, we were, we were ready for some of it in the sense that we had crisis management plans in place and so on, but not quite to the extent that we had. So, anyways, we came out of it as an organization strong. We've changed as an organization, as most organizations do. You learn some things from that about remote work and people that they can do things in different places. And we've changed our policy here that people have to be. You still need to collaborate. That's so important in our organization. So we require folks to come in 3 out of 5 days if they type of thing. The thing, Chris, is we've changed is we have remote staff now. So we have a couple people that live down in Calgary and work out of Calgary, and another one out of Didsbury. And if I went another one up north, if I thought about that 10 years ago, that would have not happened in our organization. They would have been in the office. And so that's changed. Even what we're doing right now, Chris, I think this is part of what's kind of came out of COVID and some of the things that have people meeting and talking virtually and getting comfortable doing that. So I think that's one thing. We are also, provincial government certainly stepped up at that time. They came up with some funding programs. I think we did a lot of work working with the province on the need that municipalities had at the time. They lost a lot of revenues from different things that happened during COVID. So, that's one I'll mention. The other one is relationship with the provincial government. That's been a challenge. It's had its peaks and valleys. I think right now there's a lot of negative messaging at times, whether it's from the provincial government and federal government towards local governments. So I think that's one challenge that's there. And I think our members are trying the best that they can to still collaborate and work with and have positive relationships. But I think that's one thing that's kind of right there right now is just the relationship. And I think that the third thing I want to mention about a challenge, and it's again been a challenge that I think we've been doing fairly well on, and it's just the change in media and getting your message out. So, in your format is perfect example of that, Chris, where the traditional media outlets and channels that were there a number of years ago, they're diminishing and less prevalent, and less people actually reading and paying attention to those. They're paying attention to the media channels that you have with podcasts and other types of conversations. So we have some really good people here, Scott Lundy, who and Mike Hogan, really good staff that have really worked to kind of move towards that channel. So it's been a challenge, I guess, getting our word out at times. And we just have to find different ways, and we found different ways of doing that. So yeah, I think those are the big shifts that most people have noticed in the past 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah.
I just want to flip the question a little bit, if you don't mind, just because I want to get this on record. You've also seen some challenges from a municipal perspective. While you are the CEO of Alberta Municipalities, your members who make up Alberta Municipalities have faced their fair share. Are you seeing the same issues that were present in 2004 in 2024, or are they a range of issues new to the municipal realm that municipalities are dealing with that they weren't dealing with in 2004?
Totally different, Chris. I think the one that probably is still very prevalent in 2004 now, and it's funding, infrastructure funding. That was an issue then. It's still an issue now. But the other issues that are housing. So housing is, of course, as you know, less prevalent. You didn't hear too much about it in 2004. Uh, the social issues now, that some of the disorder and other social issues, whether it's homelessness or addictions and that type of thing, that's new. Or it's not new. It existed then, but it's a much higher profile issue and a much more larger issue. So I think those things have come about, and a lot of people will say that COVID might have been the pandemic a trigger for a lot of these things. But yeah, I think those are the main things, those social issues. And downloading, I think, has been you've heard this many times from speaking with community leaders about defining what roles and responsibilities are of the different levels of government. And there's been just a bit of a move to download some of those responsibilities to municipalities. And municipalities, they're strong. They work to build communities and strong communities. And if there's a gap in some of the service delivery of something, usually it's the residents and businesses that are looking at the local leaders to kind of step in, and that's what happens. So that's something that is, again, that exists now that probably wasn't so prevalent back in 2004. Yeah.
With Alberta Municipalities, many subsidiaries that you work with, including AMSC, Munix, and Apex, how did you, as CEO, ensure that each business met its goal? Because I've spoken to many municipal leaders, and they always say you need to meet your goals to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck. So, how did you, as the leader of the organization, ensure that the goals were aligned with the overall organizational's vision?
Yeah, no, good question. I think the first thing that any leader of an organization will tell you is make sure you get the right people, have the right people in your organization. The people are what drives an organization. So get the right people, and from there, before then, you have to develop a purpose for your organization. So what is the purpose of your organization? What is the value that you're providing to members or customers? I think once you really get set, define and feel comfortable as what your purpose is, what your value is to your members, those goals, they just naturally come out of there. So how am I going to accomplish this purpose and those goals, and how am I going to do it, and how am I going to measure it? They just occur. The first trick is to get that purpose down, and it has to be clearly communicated to everybody involved. So it can't be a purpose that's confusing and not clear, not have clarity. It has to be something that anybody can within your organization can understand, comprehend, and believe in. It has to be believable. But once you have your purpose, your goals and objectives, they just fall out of there, type of thing. What's also important, as I said, getting the right people, but you have to get people that also believe in your purpose. So they have to believe in your purpose. And if you've got a purpose that is easily communicated, people believe in it, Chris, those things just naturally happen. Yeah.
Do you feel like you do have a good team at Alberta Municipalities and you're leaving it in good hands with whoever takes over your role?
Yep, I do. And yeah, it's kind of where I started off. And you kind of started off by asking me, why am I ready to leave now, type of thing. And we've got good people here. They're strong people. They're the organization's ready for me to leave and kind of get to the next stage of my life. And the people here, they'll and I've said this many times to the folks here that said that asked me about leaving in retirement. I said, you guys are ready. You're ready. You don't need me. Maybe you need a fresh face sitting in front of you, and it'd be a good thing for the organization. So really good people, Chris, here. Yeah.
Looking back on your 20 years, is there something that you wish you would have been able to get done?
Um, yes. I'm probably not going to go through them with you, but uh,
But do do
that's
you
a
look back
challenge.
at do you look back and say, I wish I would have been able to just get this one across the line, but I know the organization's in good hands and they'll be able to finish off where I started?
There's a few. I mean, and I've chatted with some of the folks about, if I had to do things a little bit differently. I mean, you learn things, Chris, as you go along and you kind of self-reflect. But um, very much you self-reflect. There's some things I would have done differently, I think. Is there things that one major thing, there's a bunch of little things, Chris,
Yeah.
a bunch of little things. And part of what I have to do and get into the next stage of life is kind of leave those things behind and not think about it when I leave on, oh, we didn't get that done. You just have to trust the folks in the organization. And we're really strong in our planning. So we have business plans and we have plans for the next 5 years type of thing. And those plans over 5 years, they'll change as things change and go along and they'll evolve. But that's what the people here that are remaining here, part of this organization, they'll work and deliver those. So, if there's some things that didn't get done, for sure, I have to leave those behind, Chris. And I know that I have faith in the people that they'll keep working at them. Yeah.
You talk about evolution. How did Alberta municipalities' role and influence within the community members, within that collaborative framework that you were hoping for within members, within the province, evolve under your leadership?
I think the big things that evolved are our member engagement. So we're much more. We've changed over the last number of years how we're engaging members, how often we're engaging members, what we do when we engage with them. That's both at the staff level and the board level. So our board now visits our members a lot more. They're engaged with them a lot more. You might have heard this from different things, and you've seen it at our events and conventions. We've also evolved in that engagement is we're going to meet them where they're at. So we're out across the province probably a lot more than we had in the past. So that's been a big evolution, is just our member engagement and how we engage with our members and where and when we engage with our members. So yeah, I think that's been one of the more bigger evolutions is that engagement. Yeah.
Turning towards the future, how do you view the future of municipal governance in Alberta?
Um, well, it's the biggest thing that I kind of relate to that. I think um, one of the most important initiatives that is out there right now is the FCM initiative, the Municipal Growth Framework. Um, and we're a firm believer in what FCM is doing there, or attempting to do, or have got planned. I think there has to be a coming together of the three levels of government that actually looks at the responsibilities of all three levels of government and the funding that goes along with those responsibilities. And we our belief is it doesn't mean it's new taxation powers for anybody, but it's how that funding gets divvied up between the levels of government. And you've heard this so many times: municipalities either get 9 or 10 cents on the dollar for the total taxation dollar. That's just not enough. So I think that's something that's got to happen. When it happens and how long it takes and so on, but there has to be that re-examination, and the FCM initiative, I think, can be that big driver. Property taxes, they're dwindling, or they're not going to increase property tax. The assessment base is not going to increase. Citizens and businesses are not ready for tax rate increases and overall taxes, but the assessments, online shopping, other things that are happening, property taxes are going to be having diminishing returns. So and there's a lot of things that municipalities are doing now, some of the responsibilities that they've picked up. Property taxes were never meant to pay for those services that are being delivered. So I think the future of municipalities and local governments, a lot of it is in the hands of what happens down the road with that growth framework initiative that FCM has, and looking at roles and responsibilities and how funding is divvied up between the three levels. Yeah.
Do you envision Alberta municipalities continuing supporting municipalities in the future? Because the one thing I always hear from municipal leaders is you do a great job and then you become redundant. Do you think there will always be a need for Alberta municipalities?
Yep, I do. Yeah, for a multitude of reasons. The there needs to be one voice. There needs to be, I think, one voice and one message. that doesn't always happen, where sometimes the message gets diluted or divided up in different ways. But we try our best, and our members try their best, I think. So there will always be a role for one central agency association. I also think it's going to become even more important for some of the smaller communities where you're looking at service aggregation and so on. So yeah, there'll always be a need for the organization. At least I hope there is. Yeah.
Now, I want to turn to some parting words, if you don't mind. And this was not a prepared question, and I'm kind of throwing it in here. But over the last 20 years, you've dealt with numerous presidents. Currently, Tyler Gandon from the city of Wetaskiwin. You had Kathy Heron from the city of St. Albert before that, Angela Duncan from the village of Alberta Beach, Barry Morishita, and the list goes on. In your words, what makes a good president of Alberta municipalities? Because they all brought something different to the organization, and you have got to work side by side with some of the most colorful people that I can imagine, and I've got to meet over my time. So I can just imagine the stories. What makes a good president from a CAO perspective?
Chris, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad you kind of mentioned all those four individuals. They were the four individuals that I worked with as a CO. Enjoyed my time with all four of them. All four were, as far as Tyler's case, are is a good, great president. So I think what makes a great president, the main thing is that they care, they're engaged, that they care about the municipality, the local levels of government. They care about their communities. They want to make things better for their communities and for the province and for other the other local governments that are part of our association. And they're good communicators, that they are able to communicate and engage with either our membership or other levels of government. So all four of those individuals, Barry and Kathy and Angela and Tyler, they all very much care about what they're doing. They've always been fully engaged. They've always been available, and they're great communicators. So yeah, I think those are the qualities that a good president has.
Is there any advice or guiding principles that you wish to instill upon the next generation of leaders, the people after Tyler, the people who are in your office right now, who will come and go just like you're doing right now? What's your parting words to the organization that you just hope people hear?
Well, number one, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself and have fun. I mean, there's challenges every day or every week or every month. There's challenges, but along with those challenges, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes in the organization. So enjoy yourself, have fun. It would be one principle. I think trust people. So trust your once you trust the people that work with you. Trust the board members that I have to work with. I shouldn't say have to work with, that I do work with. So trust individuals, and I think as I said, Chris, if the organization has its purpose. Once people get behind that, they're always going to be doing the right things and for your membership and for the organization. So yeah, those would be the big parting words that I would have. Yeah.
Now, I would be remiss if I did not just go with a Hail Mary question to end this interview, because I look at the calendar and I see a certain an event happening in October of 2025. Now you're retiring 1 year prior to the next municipal election. And what I hear from municipal leaders is it's usually a retirees game. Could we potentially see a Dan Rude on the ballot box in 2025, or are you out of the municipal game after this?
You know what I'll be doing in October 2025, Chris?
What?
I'll be counting ballots because there's no more tabulators. I'll volunteer and I'll be counting. So I will not be on the ballot, but I can imagine that I'll be counting.
Dan, I want to thank you so much. Now, you and I have met each other twice in my time of doing this show, and each time, the first time we met at FCM, and it was a pleasure to meet you there, and then we met in your office. And I truly want to say thank you so much for everything you've done and allowing me to be part of the Alberta Municipalities world because I've so enjoyed even connecting with yourself and all your staff members and all your presidents. So thank you so much and go enjoy retirement.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed this very much, and it was good. It was good to go back and reflect and think about some of the things over the years, and very much appreciated our conversation, Chris.
Thank you so much to Dan for his dedication and his service to Alberta municipalities. I had the pleasure to meet Dan twice over the last few years since starting this rebrand of the cross-border interviews and launching municipal affairs. He was kind, he was generous, and he just was willing to chat with me whenever we saw each other in passing. So, Dan, go enjoy your retirement. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are entering into our final week of shows of 2024 next week, and you will not want to miss any of those upcoming episodes. We have some big names rounding out 2024, so be sure to tune in and stay informed. Until Monday, just keep talking.